My name is Paul Leon. I've trained over 2,000 professionals in consultative communication. I've been a top performer in sales in Fortune 500 companies. I want to give you the 3 questions I train and actually use to help close more sales in business. The first question I like to ask is, how does this meeting need to end for you to say it's worth your time? This is a question I like to ask up front simply because what I have seen in a lot of consultations in both conducting and being on the other end of it is a lot of the time we think we have to get right into our pitch, or we ask some of those high level surface questions that people really don't want to answer. What's the weather outside? How's your day? I want to get to know you. That's just not how it is up front. Now, after the sale, if you close them or they're in your follow-up funnel, that might be a different conversation, but we're talking about the consultation. So again, the first question is, how does this meeting need to end for this to say that it was worth my time? And I think that's a very powerful question, because what happens is it lets them sell you. See, the person who's talking the most is giving the most. The person who's listening the most is also adding the most value. So what current points of confusion do we have? So I might provide clarity around it. See, a lot of the time we think sales is this weird, give me your money or don't give me your money. And yes, an exchange of goods has to happen for your solution or services, provided that it's a good solution, 1, that you're giving, 2, the customer values, and 3, you're able to communicate in a way in terms of return on investment. Cost is associated with loss, investment is associated with gain. So whether you're consulting or you're a trainer who is training other sales reps, I recommend you steal what I just told you. That cost is associated with loss, investment is associated with gain. But to be also clear, don't forget that the second question is very powerful, which is, what are your current points of confusion that we have? So I might provide some clarity around it. One of the things I've started doing is we only work with companies that have a staff of at least 10 people or more. We started doing in-person training here in the local area of Columbus, Ohio. If you're a business owner who has a staff of 10 and you're looking for consultative communication training to help close more sales, lower turnover, and help improve morale in the workplace, check out themanagersmike.com. The third question I like to ask is, what needs to be true about our solution for you to say yes to this investment? So I covered this in my last question, and we talked about that cost is associated with loss, investment is associated with gain. But I want to be very sincere that the key words you use are going to communicate who you are from beginning, during, and end. I'll give you an example. One really good company that I had the opportunity to buy from was actually Tempur-Pedic mattresses. Now, in no way, shape, or form has Tempur-Pedic sponsored or done anything with this video, but I'm going to tell you what I really like about their sales process. So my wife and I had a mattress for over 15 years. We had to go into a Tempur-Pedic store. I had Tempur-Pedic. I figure, why not go back? I had a budget of about $2,000 more or less. And the sales rep actually ended up selling me $4K over my budget. And here's how he did that. When I came in, it were actually packed. It was packed to the brim. But he was with someone else, and he said, hey, I want to show you some of our solutions. Go ahead and look around. So within 30 seconds, he acknowledged me. Really good guy. The second thing he did, as soon as he was done with that customer, he came up to me and said, hey, have you had an opportunity to look around? And is there anything about these solutions we have on the floor that maybe have caused you some confusion that I can help clear up? So he hit that right off the bat. And by the way, I've never worked for Tempur-Pedic or even trained anybody from Tempur-Pedic. So either they knew this stuff prior, or somehow we were just running on horizontal lines when we met. I'm actually a tough buyer. I'm also a logical buyer. Like, if it makes sense and there's a solution and everything's aligned and I have the budget, let's just do this. But he didn't know that. And I said, well, what can you give me to give me a good return on investment? Is this your best price? I always like that because I like to negotiate because it makes me feel alive. And he goes, well, I can't do that. What I can do is give you betting sheets. I can give you all these other things, including that. And the value of that is about $1,000. He communicated my no into a solution. And that's some bonus tips I want to give you. You never want to say no in a consultation. No is a complete sentence in sales. What you always want to do when you get no's or what you know, you always have to frame it from, well, it doesn't do that. What it can do is this, and this should move you closer to that solution. What we can do is XYZ. And that's why it's really important that you role play with your team. The other thing I will also encourage you to do is really be prescribed in your scripting. And a lot of people will say, well, I want people to find their own voice. I want them to be themselves. And that's totally fine. Let them be themselves with the tools that working. Look, I don't mind if somebody wants to paint a different way my wall, as long as the wall gets painted. I'm totally fine with that. But if I can give that painter different tools and they can paint the way they want and it can help them do it faster, more efficiently, what's the problem with that? And that's the same thing in sales. You give those scripts, you give those tools so they can find their own unique voice, but they already have the tools there to find out what's working. Check out themanagersmic.com. That's our website to our podcast. You can get a ton of free information on there, and check out our newsletter. I hope you enjoyed this video on the 3 questions that'll help you close more sales in your next set of consultations and in training your team. Take care.